cleverest country when it comes to global education rankings. It always seems to be the same story. Asian superpowers take all the top educational places and everyone else goes in for bouts of doubt and recrimination. 1. Move to East Asia. There is no escaping the relentless geography of education rankings. Singapore is now in first place, followed by the likes of South Korea, Hong Kong, and Japan. By a previous Shanghai high flyer, but next week's PISA tests say incorporate the city with other parts of China. Add Taiwan, Macau, and Vietnam to this list. 2. I'm only going to say this once. To put it diplomatically, many of the most successful have an expectation countries and GUI Seiko told their so what. A focused, conformist culture, a sense of purpose collective. An old-fashioned or even level 1 party state are often do features of the highest achievers. But there are exceptions. The Finns are high achievers with a strong sense of liberal independence. 3. Make sure you do not have natural resources. There's a phenomenon in education GOI, the resources curse. Mako shows the economies built on natural wealth, sitting on vast oil. NHU reserves tend to underperform in education. Much of the Middle East is given as an example. How do you motivate someone who expects to be wealthy regardless of how well Chung achieve in exams? In contrast, small with few resources countries have to learn quickly how to live on Chung with. 60 years ago, one of South Korea had the worst levels of illiteracy in the world. Now we're all watching Code TVs for. Bet your house on the teachers. The OECD's Andreas Schleicher education guru has a catchphrase, no education system can be better than the quality of teachers, no. And this week's rankings have the same message. TIMSS, success is inseparably linked to the supply of good quality teachers. Headline-grabbing wheezes, whatever might be deployed by education ministers, it all down comes to investing in teachers. 5. Be a youngish nation. These might be ancient cultures, but a curious feature of high education is how many achievers are relative newcomers as nation-states have newly reconstituted their boundaries. Celebrate No Say Only Finland centenary next year. Singapore and South Korea, Trong Thi political forms, are products of the 20th century. Vietnam, the country's equity from war in the 1970s, one of the most by rapid improvers. Racing past the United States and European crusty old dinosaurs. Does it make more light-footed about changing and adapting? 6. Get a big, overshadowing neighbor. Another feature of the top consistent, surprisingly countries at how many have education is to compete for daylight with a much bigger neighbor. The European success stories of recent years, Finland, Poland and Estonia, have all had to emerge from the shadow of the old Soviet bloc. South Korea and Hong Kong are up against mainland China. Singapore is a tiny city-state surrounded by bigger, more populous neighbors. Education is the way to punch above cocoa weight. 7. It's not a knockout competition. Education league tables are based on the proportion of young people reaching some benchmark of ability. Those who will be the winners. GS Coco. Everyone shouldn't cross finishing line, including the poorest, and the distinguishing feature of the top Asian system. They put the best teachers with the pupils to make sure everyone weakest gets to a basic standard. In contrast, much of the Western approach to education is more like the Grand National, with the expectation code if the horse is very starting the race will be there at the finish still. And the rankings reflect this fundamental difference. 8. Classroom jackdaws. Education systems are hard to disentangle from the politics and the culture they've grown. As much as everyone likes to talk about innovation, there are plenty of pressures against change. But many of the high-achieving countries do see cherry-picking ideas ruthless in from other countries and trying at it strong own schools. 9. Long-term planning in a short-term world. It might take 10 years before changes in an education system make any positive difference in global rankings. That's not much of an incentive for the fleeting lifespan of ministerial office. A recent reforming education in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, go office as minister in 12 days, the third. But the big message from the global rankings is what is needed is consistency and continuity. 10. Blame everyone else.